Well, you may remember the last part of the story, but I will refresh your mind about it. When the boys, the young men I should say, and the rest of the group came back from their disgusting breakfast, you may remember the yogurt, like sort of Lebanon, with the green mold floating in it. They almost ate the mold. They were so hungry. But they decided not to, of course, and they went upstairs. But then two of the men, Romanians they were, men from Romania, started running around the room saying they wouldn't work. And they were looking for the door, which of course they couldn't find because the door was covered by a wall. There was no way to get out that they could see. There was only the door that went back downstairs, and that was locked and blocked by one of the big, ugly, hairy men who wouldn't let them go by. And the little evil man, he was ready to have them destroyed because he is so mean, and he was going to have them torn apart by the cat animal. Yes, the cat animal. But Dov, whose name you will recall means bear in Hebrew, faced them all down. Faced down the little guy, the little fat, mean guy. Faced down the big, hairy, smelly guys. And worst of all, faced down the cat. He faced down the cat because the cat monster realized that he was dealing with another wild, brave young man, like a bear. And then there was silence. Everyone stood still, and they waited for what was going to happen next. Well, at that point, the silly old lady came up and said to her husband, "Why don't you listen? Why don't you listen to what Dov has to say? Maybe there's something to be learned." And perhaps you recall, I believe I told this part already, Dov pointed out to the little fat little mean man that they weren't putting out much work. The people didn't work very hard because they were very unhappy and miserable. They weren't being treated like human beings. And then maybe if they treated them like human beings, they would do more work. Of course, Dov was just saying this. This was not what was in Dov's mind. Dov was only thinking about getting out, about somehow breaking out of this horrible dungeon shop and finding a way to get free, not just for themselves, not just for him and Yehudah, but for everyone that was there. But he wouldn't say that. Instead, he was talking like what in America is called a labor leader, a man who helps workers get together and form a union and get better conditions for for themselves. And in the history of America, there were some very famous men, Eugene Debs, Samuel Gompers. These, I believe, were Jewish, as a matter of fact, and they led the workers to form unions and get much better conditions for themselves in America. But at this point, all Dov was thinking is really just getting the hell out of this place. But he was brave, and he was strong, he was fearless, he was fierce. He would kill, he would die, he would do whatever he had to do. But he wasn't all that smart. He was smart, but he wasn't brilliant. Yehudah was brilliant. Yehudah was wise. Yehudah was thoughtful. Yehudah was knowledgeable. Yehudah was going to figure something out. He was thinking while Dov was facing down these horrible people and semi-animals. Well, at this point I would like to take a brief aside and tell a little section of the story that is specifically for Yotam. It's not exactly the same as the story. It could fit into the story, but it's a little bit more of something that Yotam would enjoy. So at this point, Dov grabbed the little fat man, and he had in his pocket a valve. A valve is something that lets air in, but doesn't easily let air out, like in a basketball or a football or any kind of ball that you want to blow up, like even some of the things we use in the pond. You put air in, and it doesn't come out unless you push something to let the air out. Well, he had one of these things, you see. He just happened to have it in his pocket because he was an athlete. He liked to play ball, and he always carried one of these valves in case you needed to put it into a basketball or something, or take out the old one and put in one that worked. Well, he grabbed the little man before anybody could see what was going to happen, and he stuck the valve in his belly. And then, because he had very powerful lungs, he grabbed the old man and started blowing air into his belly. And the little man started to get bigger and bigger and rounder until he became a giant ball. He was nothing but a ball. And a large ball with a little hand sticking out of one end and little feet sticking out of the other end and his head sticking out of the top. A big fat ball. And then Dov kicked the ball, and the ball went flying up and hit the ceiling, and then it bounced against the wall, and then it bounced on the ground, and then it bounced again the other wall, and then it bounced again the other wall, and it came back to Dov, and he kicked it again, and it went flying, and the little man was like a big ball with his arms and legs and head sticking out, and when he hit the wall with his head, he went ow, and when he hit the wall with his hand, he went ow, and when he hit the wall with his foot, he went ow. And finally, he came down to rest, and Dov pushed the button and let the air out, and he came back to his regular size, and he took out the valve, and he put it in his pocket. And he says, now, maybe you'll listen, and you'll listen not just to me, but to your wife.
Yes, she said, why don't you listen to me? I think Dov and Yehudah have something to teach us. And we can maybe we can make more hats if we listen to them.
Well, the evil little guy, by now he was convinced that, okay, he said, okay, what do you have to say? Well, at this point, Yehudah stepped forward. Now, Yehudah was very smart and very wise and very knowledgeable. And Yehudah said, here's what I propose for you to do. From now on, give us decent food. From now on, give us mats to sleep on, like when you go camping. Amos, you know about that, right? Benjamin, you know about that. Yotam, you know about that. Little soft things that you put down to lie so you're not on the hard wood, And we want you to put out traps and catch all the mice and the rats that run around on the floor so that we can lie on the floor and be comfortable. And as I said, decent food. It doesn't have to be fancy. We're not expecting fancy. We want decent food. And I know it'll be hard to get, but for Yehudah and Dov, for me and Dov, and for anybody else here who eats special diets, like if there are any Muslims here, we want to have halal meat, and for us, things should be kosher, no shellfish, no lobsters, no shrimp. Now, I know that's a joke because you wouldn't even get anything like that for us, but from now on we do want a little meat and chicken once in a while. And we will promise, if you give us this kind of food and this kind of mat and a little more time off to rest, we will double our output. We will make twice as many hats as you have had up to now. Well, the little man was hard to...
He said, fuck you! Oh, no, he didn't say that. He said, never will I give in to your demands. You will work whether you want it or not, and you will work just as you always have.
Well, at this point, Dov looked down at the machine that was right next to him, and he saw that there was